Lasagna is still in the oven when my phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Everyone's coming to dinner Sunday. Be there by 6. Not a question, a statement. That's how it's always been in my family. Not invitations, just announcements. I set my phone face down on the counter and go back to chopping onions. I tell myself the stinging in my eyes is from those. Sunday comes fast. I drive the 40 minutes to my parents' house in Glendale with a bottle of red wine I bought because the label said smooth finish, and right now I need all the smooth I can get. My sister Ren's car is already in the driveway when I pull up, so is my aunt's, and an SUV I don't recognize. I sit in my car for exactly 2 minutes before going inside. The house smells like pot roast and my mother's perfume. The kind she's worn since I was 7. Some things never change. I hand her the wine at the door and she takes it without looking at it, already turning back toward the kitchen, already talking to someone else. Mara, your aunt's in the living room. I find my Aunt Colette parked in the armchair she always gravitates toward, the one closest to the TV. She's wearing her Sunday best even though it's Sunday in the least formal sense possible. She holds her cheek up for me to kiss. You look thin, she says. I'm fine, Aunt Colette. You're working too much. A girl your age should be. It's good to see you too. My sister Ren is in the kitchen cutting bread. She's 3 years younger than me, 26 to my 29. And she has always existed in a slightly different universe than the rest of us. One where things just work out, where problems are temporary inconveniences, where someone always steps in at the right moment. That someone has usually been me. Not because I'm a pushover, or I used to tell myself that. I helped because I thought that's what family was. I helped when Ren got her first apartment and couldn't cover the deposit. I helped when her car broke down twice in 1 year. I helped when she lost her job at the marketing firm and needed 3 months of breathing room. I didn't keep a spreadsheet. I didn't send invoices. I just helped the way you help someone you love. And I told myself it wouldn't matter someday. I'm getting ahead of myself. That Sunday, I sit down to dinner. Pot roast and dinner rolls and green beans with those crispy onions on top. My dad pours everyone water and asks me about work, which he does every time he sees me and which I appreciate because at least he asks. I'm a project manager at a mid-sized construction firm. I've been there 6 years. I have health insurance and a 401k and a carefully budgeted life that I built myself, piece by piece. After my early 20s taught me that no one was going to hand me anything. I bought my condo 2 years ago, 800 square feet in Pasadena. Mine. Dinner is going fine, actually. My dad is telling a story about a coworker. My aunt is refilling her own wine glass. I've eaten half a roll and I'm thinking maybe this will be a normal Sunday. Then my mother sets down her fork. That's the signal. I've known it my whole life. The fork placement. The way she straightens slightly in her chair. We wanted to talk about something as a family, she says. I look at Ren. Ren is looking at her plate. That's when I know. Ren's been having a hard time, my mother continues. Her lease is up at the end of the month and the new rent, it's just not workable. We've been talking and we think the best thing would be for her to stay with you for a while, just until she gets back on her feet. There's a silence where I'm supposed to say, of course, or yeah, sure, or start negotiating the terms of something I was never asked about. I take a sip of water. When was I going to be part of this conversation? I ask. My mother blinks. We're having the conversation now. You said you've been talking. That sounds like a conversation that happened before tonight. Mara. My dad's voice, gentle, warning. I'm just asking a clarifying question. Ren finally looks up. It would only be temporary. 2 months, maybe 3. And what happens after 3 months? I'd have saved enough to do what you weren't able to do the last time or the time before that. The table goes quiet. My aunt looks at the ceiling. My mother's jaw tightens. Here's what I haven't told them yet. Here's the thing I've been sitting on for 6 weeks. I sold my condo. I didn't tell anyone. I listed it quietly in April, got an offer in 9 days, and closed escrow on a Thursday morning while my family thought I was at a site visit. The buyers are a young couple, the kind who takes 100 photos of the kitchen before making an offer. They're moving in at the end of the month. I have a lease signed on a one-bedroom apartment in Arcadia, first and last month's rent paid. Move-in date in 11 days. I'm not in financial trouble. I sold because I wanted to. Because the condo association fees had gone up twice in a year. Because the upstairs neighbor played bass guitar until 11 on weeknights. Because I'd done the math and renting made more sense for my life right now. Because it was my home and my decision, and I didn't need permission from anyone to make it. I didn't tell my family because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. I knew someone would say, "Oh, so you have the money from the sale," the way my sister is looking at me right now, like she already knew something I didn't. Ren, I say carefully, does mom have a reason to think I suddenly have more space than I used to? Ren opens her mouth, closes it. My mother says, "Colette mentioned she'd heard through Janet that your building was listed." Janet. Of course, Janet lives 2 streets over from my old building and has nothing better to do than track property records. The building wasn't listed, I say. My unit was. Individual sale. So you did sell. I did. And you didn't think to tell us. I didn't think I needed to file a report. My aunt makes a sound that is technically a cough. The point, my mother says, pushing through, is that you have the means to help your sister right now. A little flexibility. Mom, I keep my voice steady. I want to be really clear about something. I sold my home. That money is spoken for. I have a new place lined up. There is no spare room. There is no financial cushion sitting around waiting to absorb someone else's lease problem. You don't have to be so cold about it. I'm not being cold. I'm being accurate. My dad is quiet. He does this, goes somewhere internal when the friction gets too high. I used to resent it. I've made peace with it mostly. Ren says, "I just need a few months, Mara. That's all. I'm not asking you to support me forever." You're not asking me at all. Mum is asking me on your behalf. That's different. Oh? So now there are technicalities. Yeah, I say. Now there are technicalities. Because the last time I said yes without technicalities, I was still waiting for a thanks 14 months later. That one lands. Ren was 23 when she got laid off and I covered her rent. Her actual rent $1,650 a month in Burbank for 3 months. I didn't ask to be paid back. I didn't attach conditions. I wrote the checks because she was my sister, and I had the money and I thought it was the right thing to do. She never brought it up. Not once. No. I remember what you did, or I want you to know that mattered. It just became part of the landscape. One of those things that happened, filed under family and forgotten by everyone except me. That was years ago, my mother says. It was 22 months ago. You kept count. Someone had to. My aunt is very focused on her pot roast. I didn't come here to fight, I say. And I mean it. But I'm not going to agree to something that doesn't work for my life just because it's easier for everyone if I do. Ren is 26. She has options. She can look for a roommate situation. She can look at neighborhoods with lower rents. She can call the number on the HUD Housing Counseling website. There are resources. I'm not the only one. She's your sister, my mother says. Like that's an answer. Like that closes every door. I know she is. Family takes care of family. I agree with that. I've lived by that for years. But taking care of family doesn't mean one person carries everything indefinitely while everyone else stands around nodding. My dad clears his throat. Maybe we should. No, my mother says. I want to understand this. You have money from a home sale. Your sister needs a place to stay. And your answer is no. My answer is no, I confirm. That's very sad, Mara. Maybe, but it's still no. Ren gets up from the table. She takes her plate to the sink, sets it down without rinsing it, and walks out of the kitchen. I hear the back door. My aunt says she's going to check on her. That leaves me, my parents, and the green beans. My dad finally speaks. She's been struggling, Bug. He hasn't called me Bug since I was 11. It's not just the apartment. She broke up with Patrick. She's been depressed. I know. I'm not without sympathy. But sympathy doesn't mean yes to everything. We're not asking for everything. We're asking for a few months. You're asking me to restructure my life around a plan I had no input in, and I'm saying that's not something I'm willing to do. My mother is quiet now. The angry quiet, The one where she's deciding how to feel about me for the next few weeks. I finish my water. I help clear the table without being asked. I hug my dad before I leave. I tell my mother the pot roast was good because it was. It genuinely was. And she's a good cook and I'm not at war with her. Even if it feels that way tonight. Ren is sitting on the back step when I go to get my jacket. She doesn't look up. I'm not trying to be cruel, I say. I know. I can't keep being the safety net while everyone else makes plans. I didn't make plans. Things just fell apart. They fall apart a lot, Ren. She pulls her knees up. She looks young. She always looks young to me, even now. There's something about younger siblings. You're always seeing them slightly behind a scrim of who they used to be. I don't know what to do, she says quietly. It's the first honest thing anyone has said all night. I know. And I'm sorry that's where you are. But the answer to I don't know what to do isn't my sister will absorb the fallout. You have to figure it out. I'll help you think through options. But I can't be the option. She doesn't say anything. I get my jacket. I drive home. I don't hear from my mother for 9 days. That's a record. Normally the cold shoulder lasts a week, maybe 10 days at the outside. I know the rhythm by now. I don't fill the silence with apologies I don't mean. I go to work. I pack up my condo with boxes I got from the liquor store on Rosemead. I arrange for the movers. My friend Lena comes over on a Wednesday night and helps me wrap dishes in newspaper. She knows the whole story because she's Lena and I tell her everything. How do you feel? She asks, wrapping a mixing bowl. Like I did the right thing. And I wish doing the right thing felt better. She tilts her head. It will. Give it time. Day 9. My mother calls. I answer on the second ring because I'm not 12 and I'm not performing distance just to prove a point. Hi, Mom. Hi. A pause. The particular weight of a pause is, I've been thinking. Okay. I may have presented the situation unfairly the other night. This is the closest my mother gets to an apology without actually getting there. I know this terrain. I'm listening, I say. We were trying to solve the problem, and we went about it wrong. We should have talked to you separately, not ambushed you at dinner. Yeah, I say. That part wasn't great. I know. Another pause. I worry about Ren. I know you do. I don't think you understand how much, Mom. I sit down on a box of kitchen stuff. I love Ren. I do. But I've been watching you worry about Ren in a way that's required me to absorb the cost of that worry for years, and I'm tired. That's not bitterness talking. It's just honest. She's quiet for a long moment. I didn't know you felt that way. I know you didn't. I didn't say it. I kept going along because saying it felt selfish and going along felt like love. But they're not the same thing. No, she says finally. I suppose they're not. We talk for another 20 minutes. It's not a full reckoning. That's not a single phone call. That's years of work if we ever do it. But it's something. A crack in the wall. Light getting in sideways. Before we hang up, she says, Where's your new place? Arcadia. Is it nice? It's mine, I say. So yeah, it's nice. Ren calls 3 days later. I'm in the new apartment, sitting on the floor eating pad thai out of the container because my table is still in pieces in the corner. I found a roommate, she says without preamble. Yeah? Her name's Holly. She works in healthcare. The place is in Monrovia. It's not what I wanted, but it's fine. It's a start. That's really good, Rin. I wanted you to know. Because you said there were options. And I kept thinking about that. Like in an annoying way. It wouldn't leave me alone. I smile at my pad thai. I'm glad it was annoying. She laughs, small and slightly reluctant. I also wanted to say, I know I didn't say thank you for before. With the rent. I don't say it's fine because it wasn't entirely. I don't say I knew you'd get there because I didn't. Thank you for saying it now, I tell her. I should have said it then, yeah, but now works too. We talk for a little while longer. Nothing heavy. She asks about my new place. I tell her about the light in the mornings, how it comes in from the east and makes the whole kitchen gold by 8 a.m. She says that sounds nice. It does sound nice. It is nice. I think about how long I spent arranging my life around other people's gaps, measuring my own stability against someone else's instability, always with one eye on the door, waiting to be needed. There's a particular exhaustion that comes from that. One that doesn't feel like tiredness exactly, more like a kind of erosion. You don't notice it until you stop. I stopped. My new apartment is small, smaller than the condo, if I'm being honest. One bedroom, a kitchen with less counter space than I'd like, a bathroom with a shower that takes 45 seconds to get hot. But the walls are mine to paint. The lease has my name only. The decisions are mine. Nobody else made plans for this space. I sit on my floor with my pad thai, and I watch the evening light change against the opposite wall, that slow fade from orange to blue that happens at the end of a California day, and I think this is what I was protecting. Not the money, not the square footage. This, the right to make a decision for myself without someone else announcing what comes next. The fork that didn't drop. The silence that wasn't required to have an answer. My phone buzzes. It's my dad. New place treating you okay? I take a photo of the window. The light. The cardboard boxes stacked to the side. Yeah, I text back. It really is. He sends back a thumbs up and then, a moment later, a heart. My dad has only recently learned to use reaction emojis and he deploys them with great sincerity and zero irony. I finish my pad thai. I start on the boxes. I've thought a lot about what made that dinner table moment possible. Not just the selling of the condo, not just the signed lease, but the years of quiet work that came before it. The part nobody saw. Because here's what I've come to understand. The way things unfold in our lives is rarely accidental. Not in a mystical sense. I'm not talking about fate or forces beyond us. I mean something more practical, more honest than that. I mean that the choices we make repeated over months and years build a reality we eventually have to live inside. And the choices other people make do the same. Ren didn't end up at 26 with no savings and an expiring lease because of bad luck. That's a hard thing to say about someone you love, but it's true. And I didn't end up with a signed lease in Arcadia and the ability to say no at that dinner table by accident either. I made 100 small decisions over years to budget carefully, to not spend money I didn't have, to ask myself hard questions before signing anything, and those decisions compounded into the freedom I had that Sunday night. That's what nobody talks about when they talk about setting boundaries. They make it sound like a skill you learn in a weekend, like one conversation changes everything. But the real boundary wasn't the word no at my parents' dinner table. The real boundary was every time I chose my own financial stability over the easier path of just going along. The boundary was built long before anyone tried to cross it. What I had to learn, and it took longer than I'd like to admit, was the difference between compassion and absorption. I genuinely love my sister. Genuinely. Watching her sit on that back step, knees pulled up, saying I don't know what to do, that hurt. It still does, a little, when I think about it. But love that dissolves your own limits isn't really love. It's anxiety wearing love's clothing. I was so afraid of being the person who didn't show up for family that I never stopped to ask whether showing up on those terms was actually helping anyone. It wasn't helping Ren. Every time I softened the consequences for her, I delayed the moment when she'd have to will something of her own. That's not a comfortable truth, but it's the one I had to sit with. The part that surprised me most was my mother's call on day 9. I didn't expect the crack in her voice. I didn't expect we went about it wrong. My mother is not a woman who revisits decisions easily, but she did. And I think she only did because I didn't collapse at that dinner table the way I had every other time. Something about the firmness of it, not cruelty, just clarity, gave her something real to push against, and eventually, to reconsider. That's the thing about holding your ground with integrity, it gives other people the chance to rise to it. Not always, not everyone. But sometimes, Ren found Holly, found Monrovia, found a start. I don't know if she'll sustain it, I genuinely don't. But I know it's hers in a way that nothing I handed her ever was. And there's something in that worth protecting. I finished those boxes in my new apartment around midnight. The place was still mostly chaos, stacked cardboard, furniture in the wrong rooms, a kitchen I hadn't fully mapped yet. But I sat on the floor in the half dark and I felt underneath everything, a kind of quiet I hadn't felt in years. The quiet of a life that was actually finally mine.